What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to Doc Connect Wednesdays, episode 97. I'm your host for the night, Chan Bobbitt, co-founder, Skyton Academy. My guy, Steve Bayonne, founder. Listen, tonight, this is about helping creatives build wealth, impact, and ownership in this new digital economy. So we got a visionary that we're joined with. This guy is no stranger to tech or creativity or artistry. All right. So Brandon Tory, founder of Formless.xyz. This is execution. This is a
Mhm.
masterclass. So if you're an artist, an engineer, an architect of any sort, and you care about freedom and fair compensation, this call is for you. Let's lock in. All right. Brandon, my guy, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes,
Appreciate you.
sir. Steve, how you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling amazing, man. I was waiting for this one. So let me show you how the power of connection and the power of just technology, right? If we focus on all the things that it's doing to like deplete life, then that's what it's going to give us back, right?
Yep.
So I want to lead this correctly. Ashley, who's a student, and she's actually over to yeah, that way.
There you go.
I'm distorted. So Ashley hits me with a repost, and then I think she might have even sent it to me directly. So it was a post to you, Brandon,
Yep.
speaking about your product, and I'm like, man, this is so. My inbox is always lit with like great content. Like people know exactly what to send me, right? So when I see it, I'm like, this is exactly what I was looking for. So, and I might have came across this. I think Champ came across Formless before too in the past, but
Mm.
not go. Sometimes you come across something and then you kind of put it on the back burner, and
Yep.
it wasn't for the moment, right?
Yep.
But then when she made the connection, I said, all right, I got the time now. Dug in, and I'm like, yeah, I did come across this. I told Champ. Champ's also a Champ's in the music industry also, and that's his passion,
Yep.
and it just resonated. But the biggest thing I got from it was the fact that you just a major disruptor in an industry that I've worked in before, right? To try to disrupt with just creative marketing. That's kind of my background. And I saw how many gatekeepers were in this industry.
Yep.
And I always said, and I always kind of push Champ that way too, because I'm like, listen, if there's any body or industry that I want to see get toppled, it's that one,
Mm.
right? And not in the sense that I want to take food off of people's table, but I've been hearing these guys decade after decade just like disrespect the culture, disrespect the music, um, weaponize it against us,
Hmm.
right? I'm okay with telling the stories of where you come from, but it's like, come on, man. Like,
Right. I agree. I agree.
how long are we going to keep doing this? So I waited for this conversation. I'm glad I didn't have to build it because I'm on that tip now. I'm like ready to build everything.
Yep.
But so I said, you know what? Let me bring you on. I went in his inbox. He didn't do anything funny. It wasn't no idle situation. He responded. I responded. We got on a quick call. All dots connected. I just need you guys to understand and hear the story of a person that executed because this is what we're in. We're in our execution season now. So 10 years
Hmm.
ago, you'd had to be in a dark room to really kind of start building these protocols. So I'm just excited to just hear the story. So I'm gonna be a fly on the wall. Champ's gonna narrate and just kind of like run quarterback on this. Where we at, Champ? How we starting this?
Sounds
All right.
good.
Let's get it, man. Listen, B, we're gonna put you in the hot seat, man. First and foremost, we're gonna start with the background and the vision, man. So
Let's do
I
it.
guess the first question out the gate is for those who don't know you yet, can you tell us about your background and what inspired you to start Formless?
Yeah. So, first off, thank you everybody for having me. Thank you, Steve and Champ, for the opportunity to speak to your class here. So my name's Brandon, Brandon Tory. I grew up in Brockton, Massachusetts. Came from a pretty rough neighborhood. Mainly, I had young parents, so we experienced, a lot of instability. I was homeless at one point as a teenager, but I became really, really passionate about computers. So no matter what I was going through, I was always on this computer that I had built from spare parts that I found around my neighborhood. I was also in the church, and the church was a place where I learned a lot of things about technology too. But I would say from the age of 13 on, I've been absolutely obsessed with tech, being a hacker, doing anything I could in the technology space. So I got really good at a young age. At the same time, in the neighborhood I came from, of course, hip hop was the prevalent language. So, the culture around me was the streets, it was hip hop, it was all the things that, we're all familiar with. And I had a tough time fitting in. I had a tough time with those two worlds. How do I fit into the culture and the friends that I have, Well, at the same time, I'm like secretly reading math books and trying to learn programming languages. And I'm embarrassed about it because my friends are like, what are you doing? Like they didn't get that at all, especially like in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Um, so I came up with the word formless to describe that. The feeling of I can shapeshift, I can be anything in any space. And even though I kept it a secret from my friends for pretty much my whole life, like I literally was embarrassed about being in tech up until like a couple of years ago. And it wasn't until my sister was like, what are you talking about? Like tech is dope. Why would you be embarrassed about it? But you got to understand, if for anybody that can relate to this, it just didn't feel acceptable to my peer group. You know what I'm saying? So it was just difficult. Um, Fast forward, I ended up becoming an engineer at Google. I worked at Google AI for a number of years on the large language models and things that we're using today. But I also was an artist and just became very passionate about, how can we solve this problem that I see so many artists facing in the music industry, but how can we do it a new way through our own technology, through our own infrastructure? And so I decided to leave Google and to build this protocol called Share, which Steve had mentioned, which essentially is all about distribution. So if you were to read the white paper, it would say peer-to-peer distribution using microtransactions on blockchain. And we'll get into more details about what that means and what it does, but that's my background and how I got to this point.
Dope. Definitely thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, in coming up with this idea, right? This having this vision for this, what problem kind of sparked this that was existing in traditional music or the media industry? You know what I mean? That you were passionate.
Yeah. So fast forward, I'm living in LA about 10 years ago, and I'm putting out music at a high level. I was connected with Timbaland, I was connected with a lot of people in the industry. I had millions of streams on my records on Spotify, but I wasn't making any money. And so it was a moment of clarity. It was a moment of truth, right? Where it was like, okay, either I'm going to continue down this path. I have a son at this point too. I'm going to continue down this path that really isn't working economically, or I'm going to have to figure something out. So just for anybody who's not familiar with the music industry, I would spend, anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 on marketing a song to get it to 1 million streams. I make back 3,500, right? So right there, that's a problem. Then you
Yeah.
repeat that cycle over and over again. You start wondering, like, okay, this actually doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so the problem was the monetization and the distribution, right? How can I actually build a business around this, not just make music just for the sake of making music, but also I got to sustain. And that was the main problem.
Dope. So where did the idea from Share even come from? Like, and what makes it different from, existing distribution models, like Apple Music or Spotify?
Yeah, so the idea came from it actually had nothing to do with blockchain. The idea was how can we control our own pricing and our own terms of advertising inside of the song without letting those terms be controlled by a corporation. So in tech, we have this idea called containerization. Like there's a platform called Docker, which revolutionized tech because it meant that you could package really complicated things into these containers, and that is like where cloud computing came from. So for my idea, it was, well, can we do the same thing for songs? Can we take the things like the royalty administration, the advertising rights, can we package all that and put it inside the MP3? So it's not just an MP3, it's an MP3 that controls itself, right? That was my idea. Now, the issue with that would be, okay, but how do you actually do that? To Steve's point about execution, how do you execute that? Because if you have this kind of fancy MP3 that has its own money flow, Spotify is not going to use that MP3. YouTube's not going to use that MP3. There's no computer that corporations have that will let you use that. And that's where blockchain came in. So my wife says you should look at blockchain. She came from traditional finance, and I was very skeptical of blockchain. As a technical person, especially even at Google, a lot of my colleagues did not believe in blockchain at all. Some of the best engineers I know. And I read the technical papers, and when I read the papers, I started to understand what it actually was. And that was when I said, this is a solution to what I'm trying to do. And from there, it was off to the races in terms of how to actually make this happen with the blockchain.
So that's powerful. And then you shared something before the call with me that was kind of insightful. So I seen the ring on your finger, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? We all married men here.
yeah.
And I said to myself, I said, how did you learn about blockchain? This stemmed from a reel that you shared. And I'm like, who put you onto it? So you can share that with them. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah.
You kind of want
So the blockchain piece came from my wife. She was working at Morgan Stanley in traditional finance. She was watching all these TED Talks about blockchain. Oh my God, it's going to revolutionize everything. You should look into blockchain. Me being stubborn, I'm like, nah, I don't think it's really going to be anything serious. But she was absolutely right. And the thing for me that really lit up was that I already had a problem that blockchain happened to solve versus a lot of things that I saw were kind of abstract. And so from a technical perspective, it was like, actually, this is the solution to what I'm trying to do.
so dope, so powerful, man, to have that.
Yeah,
Um, now let's get into a little bit about Formless itself, right?
yeah,
You were a person who identified a problem, you wanted it solved, you got the idea, you had the vision for it. Now let's talk about your brainchild, right?
yeah,
Let's get into it. Break down exactly how the share protocol works,
yep.
for both artists and for fans.
Okay, so I tell the story. I have a song called Money Can't Buy Love. And Money Can't Buy Love was a song that I didn't put on my album. So it's kind of an unreleased song. And I said, you know what if I took this song and distributed it through Share Protocol, where it actually was a smart contract? So we're all familiar with contracts, right? Like the record deal contracts or the contracts that you sign at work or things like that. A smart contract is just this new kind of small electronic contract that lives on the blockchain.
Yeah,
I said, what if we turn this song into a smart contract where people could share revenue with me? Now, for traditional songs, a lot of people may know you get paid on average $0.003 per stream, which means you have to get tens of millions of streams to make a couple $1,000 or upwards of $10,000, right? So what I did was I made a smart contract and I charged like $2.99 for access to the song. And this is all inside of this smart agreement. And what I said was I used this strategy where I said, I'm going to host a live audio space, a lot like this space that we're having tonight, right? And I said, if you join the space, you're going to get a link and you'll be able to participate in this contract with me so that for every dollar I make, we all get paid together, not just me. And so I actually ended up getting about 150 people to join the audio room, and they all tapped the link and they all came into agreement with me. And this is what Steve was talking about in terms of the power of agreement and the power of connection, right? This is why I think crypto is so important, just as important, if not more important than AI, is it's all about agreement. So in one instant, I had 150 people that agreed to share a common goal with me. What that meant was that on the first day when the song came out, all these people were retweeting it. All these people were talking about it on Twitter. All these people were talking about it on Instagram. And so it got a lot more distribution than I would have normally gotten. And so within the first day, I made about $150 on the song. By the end of the week, I had made $700 on the song. Traditionally, through Spotify, it might have taken me 6 months to a year to make that much just by having a song out on streaming. So it was the money piece, but more importantly, it was the agreement and the connection piece where now people that were my fans, quote unquote, now were my team members. So now we're actually a community where we actually are benefiting together. And that's the most important thing. Once it was done, I had all the email addresses of everybody who was in that smart contract with me, which means the next time I drop a song, I can go directly to them and say, hey, do you guys want to do this again? Which you can't do on Spotify. If you're familiar with Spotify, you can't do that because Spotify won't even tell you who's listening to your
right.
material. So that essentially, that idea of what I did with Money Can't Buy Love is exactly what anybody can do. If you go to Formless right now, you can go to Formless, you can sign up for the Share protocol, and it's an easy drag and drop where you can create these smart contracts and do all the stuff that I just mentioned.
Man, this is incredible, man. And I
Thank you.
got to personally utilize the platform. And I do have a question for you.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I like the tech stuff. I'm the data guy, right? So I like the practical stuff, but that's Steve's wheelhouse, right?
yeah.
I like the fancy data, the white papers, and all that stuff. So tell me a little bit about how Formless uses smart contracts to basically handle licensing,
Oh,
pricing,
yeah.
payments, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. It's a part that I love too. Okay, so I saw a gap in the market when it came to what was happening in 2021. So in 2021, a lot of artists and people were talking about NFTs. And when I went in and actually saw what was happening with NFTs, I thought this isn't going to work. And the reason it's not going to work is because people are just selling the speculation around a photo or a song. but they're not actually, it's not tangible in terms of what the value is. So I wrote a white paper called Share, which said it's not about speculating on the image or the song or whatever. It's about just buying it. So I just want to buy the song, right? But I should be able to buy it through a microtransaction. Now, microtransactions mean, can I pay less than 10 cents and get access to the song? This sounds trivial, but you got to remember, up until a few years ago or even this year, anytime you do a payment on the internet, there's like a 30-cent fee that goes to Apple or Google or somebody. So it's very difficult to do these small payments. So the idea was, if we can get payments to be really small, even if you're only paying 5 cents to get access to something, that's still like 20 to 30x what you'd be making on Spotify. And you get all these benefits of the fact that within the smart contract, I can take things like you mentioned, like the licensing terms, the royalty splits, and I can put all that directly into the smart contract. So this all started as a white paper called Share Protocol, and then I built it. I built that protocol using the Solidity programming language. We got it security audited. I built all the cloud infrastructure around it. So these are all skills that I had already developed through my professional career in tech, right? And this is something I think is important for everybody to realize is when you're inside of any organization or company working, you should be learning as much as you can so that when you go to build your own thing, you retain those skills, right? So, I had become really, really good as an engineer throughout my career, especially at the time I was at Google. So by the time I left, the blockchain stuff was cool, but it wasn't like that hard compared to what I was doing in AI. So it was like, okay, let me just attack this full on. And that was where Share Protocol came from.
Brilliant, man. So what kind of monetization options exist for an artist, when they're using Formless?
So basically, it's think direct to consumer. So you can do direct to consumer where you charge whatever you want, and then people get access to whatever it is you're distributing. It can be videos, songs, playlists. You can sell files. So basically, you have a peer-to-peer network where you can sell whatever you want to sell, and people can make money with you, which I think is super dope. Now, in the future, we see even more options than that. We see things like physical products like merch. We see things like advertising revenue. But right now, it's really about the direct to consumer intellectual property angle.
Yeah. Nah, so there's a synergy that's awaiting. We teach crypto, the future of finance, blockchain, and all that. And that education aspect is just the
Yes.
biggest thing, what I mean, that people truly need.
Yes.
And when I've been talking to some of my, other friends that are artists themselves, they're just not tech savvy. They're just
Right.
sheer artists. They're
Right.
here to
Right.
create. They're not looking to build anything, etc. And I'm saying to them, I'm like, calls like these are pivotal because now you get to kind of see things from the mind of a person that's just a visionary, somebody who's going to take this information and build something with it. So, definitely appreciate what you're doing. And
Of course. Thank
we're
you.
going to talk offline because there's some pieces that I want to connect that's
Yeah. Yeah.
gonna be valuable for Formless. But
Sounds good.
now I'm big on empowerment, right? Just making sure everybody just has that oomph outside of the skill set, right? The gym is the gym. You got it, right?
Yeah.
You make 100 shots, you take 100 shots, you make 100 shots, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now this is the part. Now, if you are going into and you're transitioning into this creator economy that's among us, right? How does Formless actually help the artists make more and stay independent without relinquishing a lot of their power?
Yeah. I think that, to be honest with you, it's not really a new idea. It's more like new technology on an age-old idea. So if you talk to a lot of the old timers or like the legends in music from the past, a lot of them say the same thing, which is if you can own the relationship with the customer, if you can get your own data, right? If you can build community, if you have a street team, then you can be successful as an independent artist. This is something that I've heard for years as an artist. It just didn't sound cool. It was like, I don't really want to do all that. I just want to put out a dope song and see what happens, right? But
Yeah.
like that age-old wisdom has not changed. What has changed with Formless and with Share Protocol is the speed at which you can do that because now you have better technology and better systems. So where you may say, okay, um, 15 years ago, it was the street team literally handing out records, or maybe 20 years, handing out records, right? Putting up posters. Now, the modern version of that is the decentralized organization. It's the decentralized autonomous organization that's all making money together for peer-to-peer distribution of a digital asset. So it's two different languages, right? It's the same idea. It's just two different languages. One language was, yo, you need a street team, like somebody got to put the posters up. The new language is, we need a digital, decentralized autonomous organization that's going to share revenue. Same concept, right? But just faster. So how long would it take me to put together a 150-person street team in real life? That would take some effort. How long would it take me to throw a live audio room on Twitter and say like, yo, here's a link, join the smart contract, we're gonna make money together? That'd take 10 minutes. How long would it take me to get the data of 1,000 fans, right? That would take a lot of time and energy. But if you automatically get the data every time somebody joins one of these contracts, or every time somebody buys your video on Share Protocol, by the way, it could be educational video or it could be music, right? Now you have that data. So it's the same age-old wisdom that has always worked. It's just bringing new technology to make it faster and to make it more fun, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, and that's it. That's empowering because now everything is supposed to move at the speed of light.
Yeah.
Everything is rushed, but you still want to sustain the quality behind it. So
I
that
mean,
was
that's all technology is, right? Technology is trading knowledge for time, right? The more knowledge we accumulate, the faster we should be able to do things. And it doesn't mean that like the old things are wrong, but we should be able to do them faster.
right, especially in this modernized world. This
Yeah.
is it. This is innovative. I love this. So with a bunch of the players that have been using Formless, like what has been the feedback? Like what have these creators seen using this?
A lot of people have said like this is my um, favorite thing happening when it comes to marketing music, or this feels like freedom, right? This feels like an innovation, I think, is a key word that a lot of people use. The main two things I would say is on the artist side, artists love the control and the speed of making money instantly. So if you don't have to wait 3 months for your royalties, if you can just get your royalties right now, artists really love that. Fans love to just feel like they're included in the experience. So a lot of times fans on Share have made like a fraction of a penny, or maybe they made 10 cents on a drop, but they go crazy. Like, yo, I just made 10 cents because they got it out of nowhere. They're like, I don't even know why I got this. Like, oh yeah, I'm in the splits on this song, right? And so you'd be surprised how it's not even really about how much money people are making. It's about the fact that now, it's not just that I'm watching your video on Instagram and listening to your song on Spotify, but now I feel like I'm a part of this. And that togetherness is really the thing that we consider to be the magic moment when you use our technology.
Yeah. So speaking of this was actually a good segue. So speaking of fans, like how do fans benefit in this model? Like is there
Yeah.
a way for them like early supporters to be able to earn or participate early?
Absolutely, exactly. It's that early supporters can earn and participate early. We've done drops where, for example, if you retweeted a post, we did this for an artist named TK, where if you retweeted a post from this artist, you would automatically get a link, and if you tap that link, you would come into agreement with the artist, and now you're going to make money with them every time there's a purchase on the song. And it made his post go from what typically would get 5,000 views to 250,000 views, because
Wow.
now all these people were a part of it. So it's really just the idea of how do we take the concept of community and then put that in the digital world.
Yeah. So there's a lot of skepticism that comes around Web3,
Yeah.
NFTs, etc. Like you mentioned earlier. How do you
Yep.
separate Formless, from what Formless is doing from the hype?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is something that an investor told me, which was really smart, which was hide the wires, right? So in the beginning, you basically feel like you're walking into an unfinished house that's got like electrical wires and like the stove is on fire, and it's like I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be here. Like that's how people feel about crypto,
Yeah.
right? Because it looks like it's like on fire. But over time, you polish things, you make sure that everything is smooth, and that's where we are now. So when people sign up for the platform, they really a lot of people don't even know that has anything to do with crypto or blockchain. When you dig deeper, you can find out, and then people get excited because they're like, "Oh, this is what I've been hearing about. Okay, and this is how I actually put it into practice." Also, I think a big part of it is just time. In 2021, all the news about crypto was negative. Then you had some catastrophic things that happened in the space with like FTX and other things. So it was just really tough. And now you get to the point where every time I turn on the news, they're talking about stable coins, they're talking about new policies. So, the more that time goes on, I think people will realize that we were just early to this space.
Very much so. So I got a front row seat. So this guy Steve right here, he's a mock speed mover, right? This guy here, he builds, he scales, he's always thinking about the intricacies. Like there's a lot of things that come with working alongside him, right? So I myself, I was an entrepreneur outside of music, outside of that, right? It was a clothing store, it was a brick and mortar.
Yep.
Sitting, working alongside Steve in the last we had Skyton Academy for 3 years, right? I've learned more working with him than any other venture that I've ever been a part of. And the one thing that I can highlight is that he's always early, always. So there's power in that, the creation in that. And that's what I wanted to highlight on this, just in this segment. The fact that you can have a million things going on in the world around you, but to have foresight and just to be a visionary, to be able to take something that you see or a problem, solve it, and then implement every bit of your past experiences into what you're doing. So this is just incredible, man.
I
Steve,
think the key, I was just gonna say the key word there, and what Steve has demonstrated with that piece is faith, right? Because there's a lot of people that can see things early, but they may not be able to have the discipline to stay committed to that over the whatever process it takes for it to come to fruition, right? And that's where it takes that day-to-day faith.
100%.
Listen,
Steve,
let me hit you with some practicality real quick, man.
all right.
So it's bringing me back to like banging around in New York City and like going from like Violator to where's Jimmy Henchman? What was that?
Violator?
No,
No, Henchman was
either way. So we're talking about two of the biggest record companies in New York on the same street that didn't really get along with each other, right?
Yep.
So I had the ability at the time to really get in and out of each office. That's rare, right? So at the time, I'm moving like prepaid debit cards. So this was like before the Rush card, before anything. I set up this whole entire play. Met with Burt Bedell. I mean, you name it. Then I started to understand how the industry worked. The further I went up the food chain, right? They're giving me some time, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Burt Bedell, actually, who was an accountant to Biggie Smalls. I mean, you name it. He had everybody. He was managing their money. And the first thing he said is, he said, these guys are broke. They're not gonna do this, right? And then he starts to explain and go into it. And that's when I started to realize, I said, music companies, and I always look at things differently. You might think it's the music industry, but it's not. Music companies are banks.
Correct.
Starbucks is a bank. Airlines are banks. When you start to see businesses in their culture or even just their makeup, then you're like, all right, well, it's not personal, it's just profitable. Right? So I lend you $1 million, it's debt.
Correct.
You understand? You're not getting paid profit until that's paid off. So it's
Correct.
basically a bank loan, but it's recoupable, right?
Correct.
So this is the issue that artists have. They're more on, like you said, you didn't want to do the street team thing. I'm a guerrilla marketing guy. I come from that era. So I'm not scared to bootstrap and say, you know what? I don't need them. Right? This is why I could be enamored by even looking at old Dame Dash clips 20 years ago. Straight visionary. But when you have a guy like that, and you can see how it kind of weighed on him a little too long. I think he fought the dragging. He stayed at the party too long.
A little bit ahead of his time on that piece, but yeah.
Too much ahead of his time.
Yeah.
But he's a messenger, right? It's making sense now, right? You play anything he says now, it's formless.
Yeah.
Right?
By the way, Dame Dash is one of my biggest inspirations. I mean, I can't stand by everything that he does, but definitely inspired by Dame.
But the message, right? If you can see past the other stuff, it was always have ownership in yours, right?
Exactly.
Ran with the independent model. Still, signed to majors for obvious reasons, but it was a partnership.
Yep.
Okay. So now you have this thing called your masters. Everybody knows, but everybody follows the same code. You understand? And that's the biggest thing. So right now, when we speak in the academy, and everybody will tell you what's the biggest commodity in the world right now? Data. Data. Well, time for sure. But in the sake of talking about music, it's about data. So artists don't see the individual as data. And then they don't know how to monetize it. So it's really just a lack of information, lack of education. They're not there to educate you, right? You're a commodity. it's a bank, right? So they're not seeing you
Absolutely.
as a person. They're not seeing you as a creative. And mind you, there's some other destructive things that go on in between that. So the analogy, let's say like real estate. So you built the house, right, Brandon, which is your music,
Yep.
but they own the deed and they collect the rent forever.
Right. Right.
You're just on a land lease. It's soulless,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody's deal is like that. Like, don't get me wrong.
So I agree with everything you're saying, especially the bank piece, right? Because even when you talk about when I talked about artists love instant payments,
Mm,
it's not that Spotify doesn't have the technology to do instant payments, is that their
right.
business model is it's not in their best interest to do instant payments because if they can hold the money, then you can actually make interest on that money. So everything you're saying is spot on. The trade-off though that I think has been difficult is these intermediaries, these labels, these companies, although they do have some bad practices, they are putting up the capital. So if you don't have that capital in the beginning, you can say ownership and all these other pieces, but unless you have the money to actually make it happen, it's still going to be difficult. And that's why I think a lot of people still sign bad deals because you need the capital. Now, what's really interesting about crypto is that we have a way to do capital formation. We have a way to actually create more capital directly through the community.
Mm.
And that is what kind of flips this whole thing on its head, where you can say like, oh, actually, if I distribute this thing at a certain price, I can make so much money on this one drop. And I have a guerrilla team that's making, 20% of the rev share with me, that now the function of the label is obsolete completely.
Okay. Do you see Spotify and these guys, these big streaming behemoths, like going into blockchain technology in the future? Or do you think they get disrupted with the old model at some point?
I think everybody has to go into blockchain for the simple fact of stable coins at the very least. I mean, the cost to move a penny across the internet with traditional finance is much higher than it is if you use USDC. So if for nothing else, I think people are going to be using stablecoins. This is why Stripe is making acquisitions left and right. They just acquired a company called Privy, who we use. They're going all in on this stablecoin infrastructure. So I don't see any reason that Spotify and everybody else won't do that in terms of using digital money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not they'll use it for the reasons that we just mentioned, I think that part is up in the air. Like Spotify definitely already is doing stuff with blockchain. I know they had some pilots that they did a couple of years back. They've been doing research and things like that. We'll have to see what it is they want to do with it. But I think everybody, at the very least, is going to be adopting the stablecoin technology.
Do we see a coin or token in your future?
That's a great question. If you had asked me this a year or so ago, I would probably say absolutely not.
Mm.
Um,
And why?
Because I think the stigma around tokens is a real thing, the negative stigma around them. I think that tokens are complicated and somewhat not very useful in terms of the number of tokens that we've seen that really haven't panned out to mean anything for companies.
Yeah.
That being said, I think that there is a thoughtful way to do a token and for it to be extremely beneficial for the community. But it takes time. The only way it makes sense to have a token is if you actually have a product that works and that people love, and then you use a token or you enable a token to be a way for the community to be owners and co-owners of that product. If you can do that, then it's great. If you just have a token, but there's no product, there's no actual business that's working behind it, then I think you fall into that trap of just like, oh, this was just speculation and the community never actually got any value out of it. So I think it's possible for us to have a formless token in the future, but it would definitely be predicated on share being a widely adopted product as kind of a first step.
Okay. So we're of course we go through, we have sectors, like we've been deep in this academy, even at an entry level, right? So
Yeah.
we know of audio, Audius, Nas investment in that.
Yep. Yep.
A jam token now is another one that we've been researching,
Yep.
right? How do you when you start to see these companies, um, what's your take on the growth of this industry and its market cap that you're seeing now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those companies I was familiar with before I even started, especially Audience. I think Audience has been around for a
Yeah.
very long time.
Yeah.
So I use them as precedent, right? As especially in my technical kind of research before I wrote, our paper, it was like, what do they do well? What are the gaps that you see there? I think just as a founder and as an entrepreneur, I respect anybody who's building in this space. So I never look at it like, they're not doing a great job, but I do think that what we're doing is pretty differentiated. In terms of the market cap of the overall space, it depends what you consider the market to be. So if it's the market for music, that's one market. If it's the market for distribution services, that's a different market. If it's the market for, smart contracts and like technology that enables you to build community, that's a different market. So I think if we start with music, I think the direct to fan music market is growing. I've never seen an industry where people spend so much time complaining about the problems they have as music. I mean, every single day I hear a musician just furious. So I think it's a massive problem. I think it's going to take a long time. We have seen a lot of success in the direct-to-consumer space. Like if you look at Even, which is a great D2C platform, right? Like they're doing some stuff there that shows evidence of a growing direct-to-fan market. Now that doesn't really have all that much to do with blockchain, but it does show the direct-to-fan market. I think for me, the market that I think is really going to be interesting is the distribution market. So the market of people who are paying to be able to get their stuff into the hands of more customers. And how do you use cutting edge technology to do that? I think that's really important. And then the market, which like nobody I think really understands yet, is this smart contract market. Like if you look at AI, you could look at AI a couple of years back and you say, what's the market for AI service? Like we have no idea. And then ChatGPT emerged and it's like, okay, well, actually a lot of people are gonna be paying for AI services. I think smart contracts is gonna be very similar, where right now, not a lot of people understand what they are, why they're valuable. This use case that we're talking about today with my service is like one thing you can do with smart contracts. But I honestly think smart contracts are going to be a fundamental piece of every entrepreneur's toolkit in the future.
Undoubtedly.
So, guys, when we talking about number one question is what should we invest in and how much? I'm like, listen, that's not what I'm here to do.
Right.
The basic principles of what we teach at the academy is always invest in infrastructure first. Right. So once you research who's leading the pack in smart contracts, and again, we of course it's going to be ETH at this point, but
Right.
I always tell them to kind of expand out because once interoperability comes into play, I can see a lot of projects kind of jumping ship. Right? Because we know the downsides and the upsides to ETH. Great in one aspect, and then it's like, well, shit, Brandon, I can't pay $900 for a
Per
$2
transaction.
album, right? Depending on traffic, because of meme coins clogging.
Yeah, I mean, I can. We free?
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep, I hear you.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I've had everything you're saying is tracks with the experience I've had. Like as an engineer and a founder, it's like you want to build on stable ground. So even the selection of what blockchain do you build on, which technology do you use to make the transactions faster, all that stuff was things that I've had to think very deeply about. A lot of people would say, well, Solana is going to be the thing because it's much faster. Then you look at Ethereum and it's very expensive, but then you have the whole L2 narrative where you can use things like Base. The trade-off there is you're losing a little bit of decentralization. So there are a lot of real, trade-offs, as you mentioned. I do think over time, if the interoperability story pans out, it can really shake things up.
What's the top 2 blockchains for you?
Top 2?
For Brandon. And it's not financial advice, guys. It's just having a
no financial advice. I mean, definitely Bitcoin and Ethereum for me, hands down. Yeah, I don't love like the L2s, like the chains that are built on top of other chains. I don't love those, but you do need them right now. It's too expensive to use the L1 chains.
Yeah. All right, guys, listen. This was insightful. This is not the last time that he's coming onto the platform. So, guys, we put the website inside the chat. Interact. If you're a creator, try something new. If you're not under contract,
Sign
so
up.
how does it work now? Let's say if I'm under contract with a major, are you having these conversations with certain people? Like, 'cause that's not really interoperability if I'm under contract, right? For the most common artists who
that comes up pretty often.
You seen them freeze. It might not, it's not you yet. It's just sometimes it freezes for whatever reason while we talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. No, I was saying that actually comes up a lot. That comes up a lot in the In the smart contract that I did for my drop, I actually put two businesses in the contracts, which is a proof of concept that you can actually put labels in the contract. So I had a deal with Symphonic Distribution and a deal with Dallas Austin Distribution, and both of them were inside of the smart contract, and they got paid in real time too. So if you have a label contract, as long as you're able to sell direct to consumer within the terms of your deal, you can still sell direct to consumer using share protocol. You could just put the label in the contract, and then they get paid too. So there's no reason that labels can't win alongside creators that have deals.
Wow, man, I just learned something new today.
Yeah, that was a major gem right there. You just solved the big problem. I see how you work it, Steve.
I like that.
Word.
So there was a comment in here, and I can't really make it out, so maybe you can. Can you share your info on AGI, and is AGI activities today? If so, when
Yeah.
did it activate? And if it's not in use now, when will it be in use?
So I assume you're talking about artificial general intelligence. Is that?
I guess hey, Valerie, if you want to just to make sure that we're hearing the questions correctly. But outside of that, since we mentioned artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
what's your take on what's happening with this stuff,
Yes.
man?
Yes.
It was. Yes.
Artificial general intelligence. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I worked at Google on a team called Natural Language Infrastructure. So we were working on the same AI models that are behind ChatGPT today. And I was working on those around the time of COVID-19, so 2020 timeframe. And I vividly remember the first time they said, we have a pre-release version of this for you to use. And I opened it up and I asked it a question and it talked back to me like a human. And I sat there for like 24 hours straight, just blown away, just mind blown. Like, I cannot believe. I went and wrote an article after that experience called The Meaning of Life, because I started questioning everything about what it meant to be human. Like, this is crazy. I can't believe that this thing can do this.
This guy's genius.
You got to remember, this was 5 years ago. So imagine the feeling of ChatGPT, but like 2020.
Wow.
So it was like existential for me. It was like, this, I can't even believe this is happening. And so that was the introduction to me of where things were going to go. Now, the reality is there's two things to say. One, is AI going to be very, very powerful, and will we reach AGI at some point? There's a high likelihood that that is a yes. At the same time, the models we're using today, the ChatGPT that you interact with today, it is not intelligent in the way that it seems. What it really is pattern recognition. So it uses statistics, it uses all the facts that it has in its training data, all the facts that it has available to it. But most importantly, it uses whatever it is you say to it. And then it computes what is the statistically most likely acceptable response to what you say. Now, that sometimes works really well. If you ask something that has an objective truth and it has the data for it and all that, it can work really well, and I use it and it's fantastic. At the same time, it can sometimes work very poorly and it can be very dangerous, because it's not actually thinking. It's not actually processing and making decisions and coming up with a good argument. It's just statistically generating a sequence of information based on what you've prompted it to say. So like, one thing I would challenge you with is, if you use AI and you ask it a question, repeat the question and say, give me a critical answer of the opposite. And it almost always will do that. And then you'll read it and you say, oh, actually, that's funny, because you had me convinced with the first answer. But now I've asked you to make an opposite argument, and it's able to do that too. So you want to stress test whatever information you get from the AI systems. Now, with that being said, AGI, I think, will happen. It won't be exactly the models that we see now, but it'll be the collection of the fact that everybody on Earth is working as hard as they can on AGI. So just the rate of progress is going to make it come one day. And yeah, we're going to start to see systems that essentially will exhibit the same level of intelligence that people have.
Here's a good one. I see audio, video, and beats supported on Share, Formless now.
Yeah.
Is it also open to podcast educational content?
Absolutely. Yes. please upload some podcasts and educational content if you have it.
We got a ton of that.
We'll add a whole section for you. We'll put you in the feature creator section. Like, let's do that.
Champ, let's run with it. Talk about it.
I told him
Big
we gonna build. We got some synergy. We got some good content to upload. We got some good resourceful information. But what I see is just outside. So I made an account myself, right? And I was sharing this with Brandon before we started the call. Now, one of the dopest things that I've realized is, one, this is crypto related, right? So now you're integrating blockchain, direct to consumer. You're paid in what? What stable coin?
USDC.
Come on now.
Yep.
So we told the students years ago USDC was going to be the government approved stable coin just because of its transparency, etc. Right. And then now on the call, he's talking to you guys about smart contracts. And now you're talking about the implementation of all the techie stuff that we talked about. We told you guys that this stuff was available for everybody. Tory Lanez disrupted the whole entire music industry just by releasing an album via NFT. The NFT, it was coded with smart contract, basically that everybody was sharing revenue in this. But every time that another album was sold, not only did he get paid again, but everybody else was able to get incentivized who sold it. So you were buying multiple copies at $1, right?
Exactly.
Went platinum in one, what was it? It was like, I think it was like an hour or something. It was crazy. It was like a small, super short time.
It might have been a minute. Yeah, I think it was crazy.
Like a minute. That's what it was. It was a minute. He went platinum. Do y'all understand, like, how pivotal that is? One, to an artist, right? Think about your favorite artist. Think about, I hate the name drop like this, but shout out to the Beehive, right? So imagine Beyonce drops something, right? Every single time she drops concert tickets, there's a new album, there's a new song, whatever the case is, instantaneously, everybody's in pure chaos. Now you have a platform that he has built where everybody has the same capability to do the same thing. And now you're going direct to person. You don't need major labels to be able to do this. But now look outside of music. It's not just music. It's anybody who can contribute any other additional form of media. You're going direct to consumer, and now everybody can get a piece of this pie.
That's it. That's it right there.
That's the power.
Yeah, you pitched it better than I did. That was great.
Steve, what you over there think about? Your mind, man.
Nah, before that, I wanna bring on another powerhouse in the music industry that jumped on the call.
Let's go.
Rick. It's my good brother Rick Steele. He's a producer. I don't know if you guys ever came across each other, but Rick can kind of give you a if he wants. You know, my brother's
Is Rick on now?
Yeah, Rick. Rick, you want to raise your hand?
Yeah, raise your hand so I can find you. I don't see your name in the chat.
There you go. It's an iPhone 2.
I see. What's up, Rick? I think you're on mute.
iPhone 2.
First page, third row, middle.
Try to unmute yourself, Rick.
You see him?
Yeah, I hit the button, but I'm trying to get.
Yeah, there we go.
Boom, there you go.
Guys, hello, how you doing, everybody? Steve.
Going on? Who's Rick Steele, man? Who's this guy, man?
Brandon.
Just so they can get some context on why we're bringing you up.
Oh man, I'm just a humble servant of the music business. But now, Brandon, I was listening to a lot of the information that you are breaking down. You're very vital, and that's exactly where we're heading.
Thank you.
So, you know, I think you definitely have a brilliant mind.
Thank you.
Where the music business is supposed to be going.
So slowly but surely.
Yeah. And a little bit of content of the Tory Lanez situation. There's a lot of, I don't want to put smoke in it, but there's, you know, I know the people that was behind it, because when, you know, we were sitting in a room with a team that was, you know, that could press that button of the million soul, you know, it's a different technology that was put around it to make that number look like what it was, but you know, it's everything about this business has always been smoke and mirrors.
I'm actually glad. I'm glad you said that because
Oh,
like people got to know the truth. Like that.
Yeah.
That drop was dope and it was a great moment. And I think he exemplified what's possible. But people got to know the truth in terms of like, there still was a long way to go to make that something that really could be scalable for everybody.
Yeah. It's it was a bunch of people with money around it that
Yeah.
that we was able to press the button in one shot.
ah, got it. Okay. Okay.
So
Hold up.
I just it's, as a community we have to tell the truth. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that's all it is. Right.
And I always say the truth will set us free. That's the key.
That's a fact. That's
Especially
Jesus.
especially in this business of I always say words are spells. So we very careful. I'm very, and Steve knows me very well. I'm very outspoken of everything that goes on in this business. But Brandon, what I really wanted to talk to you about was publishing.
Yep.
I think that technology that you have could expand into publishing, because one of the biggest, if you look at, also not a big fan of it, but United Masters has created a way to pay artists by the day, right?
Yep.
And of course, we know that was possible through probably another hedge funds that comes in as the numbers get counted, they're able to pay the artist. It's basically like in advance.
Right.
Before the advance, but they pushing it a different way, a different narrative, which makes all the sense in the world. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure if an artist want to turn that feature on, is a different ticket, right? So everybody wins. So if a dollar comes in and you charge the artist, 10%, 5%, they don't care as long as they get their money right away.
Exactly.
So the hedge funds are gonna eat that up. So that was a great business proposal on Steve Stout part. That ended up working very well. But in the long run, it still kills the artists. Because at the end of the year, when you look at the percentage, they're not realizing they just probably gave up a significant amount of money.
Oh, their revenue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For something that they could have probably waited for. So, but everybody's situation is different. So BMI ASCAP, right? If there's a way to implement publishing where artists could get paid through that system, because a lot of people don't understand the music, the triangles of payments. They got the masters, you got the publishing side, the point side, and those are the parts that's missing. Nobody know where the money is.
Right.
That's the biggest part, and that's where
nobody knows.
Oh, you know what it is? It's like everybody act like they know, even the labels, right? Right now, we at a point where we could track what we can track, right? So think about it like this: I could be playing your music in my bar, you might not even know.
Right.
The labels don't know.
Right.
So only those who has the program or the tracking device, or you most of the time you have to register it. And this is, rest in peace, Mika Bell from Haiti. That's what we was working on in Haiti, because all these Haitian artists was playing all around the world, from France down to even in their own country, and nobody was collecting.
Wasn't getting it publishing. Yep.
And so we was working on trying to figure out, is the technology in these countries there to even register these songs? So, and unfortunately, he died in France, getting off the stage, heart attack. So it was a big blow to what we was working on, because he was my only connect. He was a huge artist, and to that side of the world. But there's a big hole, Brandon. I feel like the art, if we could connect these devices that could automatically get these artists paid and the labels paid, because at the end of the day, this is a big mob business.
That's a
People
fact.
we always have to
Yeah.
understand how the music business was created in America. It started with the mob,
Yeah.
and it was taken over later on in a different aspect. But it's
By,
always
by,
been,
by who?
huh?
Huh?
Come on.
He said, "Cool."
It's still the mob.
Right.
So,
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about the way that works, because a couple people have mentioned the publishing side.
uh-huh.
Do you know how right now the money flows? Like if I play something as a DJ in a venue,
Yep.
and the venue has to have the ability to play that, how does the money flow in that situation?
So there's a thing called performance royalties,
Yep.
right? And that performance royalties usually goes when somebody performs a record. So Live Nation itself, when you see some artists don't want to perform or don't want to enter certain places, is because they know they don't have all the infrastructure for everybody to fully receive what they're supposed to receive.
Composition, yep.
So that's why you don't see it happen. So the Live Nations of the world, the CAAs of the world, they have the connection and the technology to make sure everybody gets paid. Of course, themselves first.
Of course. Yep.
So that's where the trick is. Hold on, let me make sure. Yep, okay.
I think that it's something that I've thought about on the publishing side. We started simple by doing more like the mechanical play, where it's just the direct to consumer.
Yeah.
But I think especially with AI, you could actually make that pretty easily, where there's a system that can detect it, and then as long as you have paid for the ability to license that or use it in your venue, then it could automatically distribute the publishing on blockchain and everybody gets paid instantly. Like I could see that too.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Because right now, man, I've been working on so many different I'm on the master selling side.
Yeah.
I'm on different side of the business, and right now I've been in Asia for the last 8 months.
Oh
And,
wow. Which country you in?
well, I'm back in New York now, but I'm flying back. I was working on my visa, so I went to Japan, Philippines. I was in India.
That's crazy. I'm going to Philippines. I'm going to Philippines next month, and then I'm going to Tokyo after that. My
Okay,
father
yeah.
lives
So
in the Philippines.
we might bump into each other somewhere
Yeah, we might
down
have to
the shore.
connect.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be in that side for a whole year. So I just got my visa.
That's fine.
So, and the biggest thing, I'm helping them restructure their business formats in some of these countries, on publishing and because the biggest issue is some of them can't get features, and I'm trying to tell them the structure that you guys have now doesn't make sense for an artist overseas. If they can't get publishing or own a piece of that master, what's the point of using my popularity to help you out?
Elevate you. Yeah.
So it's a lose-lose situation. So we trying to figure out the best way to restructure all of it. So what's beautiful is, I think, with NFTs and the technology ways are going, everybody could participate.
Yeah.
It's just like anything else. Whoever is in early, especially people in this group, and the people that Steve have in this group, we don't know. Everybody's meeting for the first time, but we just don't know who's who, right?
Yeah.
So these informations of, hey guys, there's a new, Jay-Z catalog is going up before it goes public. This is this is the end, because this is where we're going to be now with all, there's a, we used to trade like chase, I want to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
That is dead, right? Everybody's on, money's going to move so fast. It's going to be crazy. And I always say, if you could attach yourself with 20 different things where you could sleep at night and make money. And that's why music is so amazing. If once you understand how music really makes money, then I've been in the music for 25 years. I've never worked a day in my life. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a true blessing. And God is good. So
Absolutely.
that's the key. You know what I'm saying?
Guys, this
You
is
put that
power
first, Steve, we
connection.
good, right, Steve?
Listen, always. And listen, let me just give you a little backstory with Rick. Rick's been watching me on the internet, right? And I'm not saying in a way like stalking, just he's an innovator. He ran across my page and he tracked, right? So then next thing you know, a message comes to the inbox. We hit it off. We're fellow Capricorn, so I just knew from the gate once he told me that it's all gas on this end and his end. So like you, the relationship was formed through technology, right? And then now I can see another synergy happening. And that's the great thing about just blockchain and the way that blocks are formed when you start to look at how everything is connected and validators and stuff like that. So I'm validating Rick, validating Brandon. And then what I'm going to do is, if you guys don't mind, can I put you guys in a group text personally, and then you guys can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, no problem.
That's connection. It's all about connection.
And listen, the only thing I want to ask you guys, and I don't need to be involved in anything, is just go out there and just fuck shit up. That's all I'm asking you guys for. Like, just go out there and disrupt. And whatever I need to do, I'm in.
Steve, you know, it might be a good example just for everybody to understand, to hit it home, right? Right now, there's 75 people in this room. This is already a digital community. So imagine if you had an episode and then you did 50-50 rev share and you made 75 splits in the smart contract and everybody in here could join it. And then you just put that audio on the internet and just let it grow and let everybody distribute it because they're all a part of it. Now you have a digital asset that's owned by members in Skyton Academy who came to this event, and it's going to generate revenue forever and everybody's incentivized. You could do that tonight.
Let's do that tonight.
Let's do it.
Let's do that tonight. And the reason I say that is because there's by the time we finish this, it probably have 800 to 900 views on YouTube, right? Within the next 2 days, right? On the replay. And the reason I say that the conversation was so valuable, there's so much inspiration that could come from this, because that's the biggest issue. Every creator needs to hear this conversation. I don't care what deal you're in, whether you're independent, you're grassroots, I don't care what it is. Every creator needs to hear this conversation, because for an industry to be innovating, or just the world to be innovating, for you to be behind, and the crazy part about it, the labels are behind, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're well, let me not say they are. I don't know what they're saying internally. But externally.
But we could know that they're not looking to do this right now, per se.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
I could see. So what's the number?
You want the number again?
Well, we didn't have it on record, so I'm just asking, is there a number? If Universal comes to you and they're like,
so I would say this. The problem is, I didn't come into this to build a technology just for somebody to buy it and mess everything up and put us back to square one. So I think ultimately what we would love to do is to open source the core components of the technology so that it can live beyond our company. But then for the company, once that job is done, then I would say there's probably a number for the company, which is independent of the technology. I don't know if I can say the number.
Listen, you said the right thing. That's music to my ears.
Yeah.
So let's put a period on it right there, only because we have a call to action. Drop a 1 in the chat if you would invest on this content tonight to get this thing out to the world, where we could all benefit off of it on Formless.
All benefit.
Drop a 1 in the chat.
All ones.
That's fire.
Let's put the content up. Just tell us what we need to do, how we need to do it. I cursed. Is that okay?
That's fine to me. That's your call. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just, it's YouTube side. They act a little
funny
with their little 0.0000.
But on Formless, you can curse.
It's all it's freedom. It's whatever you want to do.
So Brandon, can I ask you a quick question? I think I came in at the L10 the end of your distribution. You was talking about distribution and
Yeah.
how you guys use your technology. Could you brief me on that, in 2 seconds?
Yeah. So distribution from the standpoint of how do you get as many customers and as many fans to have a relationship with you so that you can sell to them or so that they can hear your music, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's really two parts. It's the data acquisition. So how are you getting that direct relationship with the fan? I think that's always been a challenge when it comes to Spotify or the traditional streaming platform. So with us, when somebody purchases the music or when somebody joins the smart contract with you, you get access to their data. And that to me is the foundation of building up your distribution. And then part two of that is the monetization. So the fact that you set your price and the fact that you can route that money to both your collaborators and to your fans or your community gives you almost like gas to pour on that distribution piece. Um, in addition to that, we work with distribution businesses. So like Symphonic Distribution, Dallas Austin Distribution. And so there's different innovative things you can do with them. For example, you can take the money from streaming and put it into a smart contract. You
Yeah.
can put distribution businesses in the smart contract so that they can participate in the D2C revenue. So for us, there's a lot of different components to distribution, but the idea really is distribution, I think itself is going to become one of the biggest problems on the internet because the number of people creating content keeps increasing. And we have
Yeah.
these algorithms that make it really difficult to build a relationship, a direct relationship with your audience.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, I'm excited about this. So you're telling me that we can get content up here, and as a collective, we can benefit off getting this message out.
1,000,000%. Yeah, that's what we do. That's the whole point.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And guys, look out for the email. We're not giving out YouTube links tomorrow. We got a new way of just operating right now.
Share, yeah.
Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you in, I'm going to hold everybody to this. Don't make me call your phones. I got everybody's number in here. So, Brandon, amazing. We have more work to do in the background.
Absolutely.
We definitely have more work to do. I have some other brothers I want to connect you with, and let's just continue to just pour this message out in the chat. And if you're watching this on YouTube land, we will have the website if you want to kind of give them. How do we find you before you go?
Yeah, so Brandon Tory on Instagram, brandontory.com, and then that's BRANDONTORY, and then Formless.xyz, which I see a lot of people put in the chat. Thank you for everybody that's put that in the chat. It's got all the
We can
information
hear
about
your
me.
music on there also, and we can share in the revenue.
Yeah, so it's funny. I just took all my stuff off Spotify. So I have an album on Spotify called Unicorn that I put out with Dallas Austin. And then we decided, you said, you know what, we're gonna do everything on shared protocol going forward. So a lot of my music right now, you can find some of my stuff on SoundCloud, but Spotify took everything down.
Out of there.
Yep. We got to build our own infrastructure. Not to knock Spotify, I think it's cool, but for me at least, I really want to exemplify what we could do with this new technology.
Appreciate it, champ. Take us out.
Yeah, we definitely gotta talk.
I just listen. I got you guys in the group text.
Come on,
Right?
we're gonna have to link up in Asia. We're gonna have to get
Yeah, no, for sure. Because that's one of the biggest. I got two major artists that have a couple million followers in Asia, and I'm like, they have a huge fan base, but you have to remember most of these countries, Spotify is limited. They pay them less.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just it's a big killer. And what's crazy is he just landed here just now, and then we meeting up tomorrow to kind of like break down. And I'll be very excited because he represents this one kid. Is the reason why we have Rolling Loud in Thailand. He created the whole hip hop in Thailand.
Wow.
Over the last 16 years. So his career is he's like the Jay-Z over there.
Okay, word.
And
I mean, I would love. We definitely got to connect one-on-one. That'd be fire.
Yeah, he's just landing. So we're doing dinner tomorrow. So I would love to get you on the phone and kind of like break that down because I think that would be a big way. Because he's been frustrated with Def Jam because they did a Def Jam Thailand, try to figure it out, and I'm like, yo, this is pointless. Distribution is not distribution though. These record deals, they not real. They just fake distribution, digital deals.
Right. That's the new. Everything's a distribution deal now, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like you might as well just put it up on DistroKid and call it. So yeah, let's definitely talk for sure.
Dope.
All right, Champ, what you got? Take us out, man.
Listen,
So,
man,
so eloquently.
you know I got you. Listen, this was an absolute masterclass. Brandon didn't just break down the technology, he broke open the mindset shift that creators need to thrive in this next era. So, what I need you guys to truly understand and sit with was that this episode was a call to action. If you were tired of gatekeepers, tired of pennies per stream, tired of being owned by certain platforms, you now know that there's actually a way out. So Formless.xyz is offering more than just a platform. It's offering power, control, and equity. Brandon, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you for building something that's truly special and impactful to me personally and to the future that we all deserve. So thank you. Everybody that tuned in, keep connecting the dots, stay curious. Always remember the new economy belongs to us. We're bold
Facts.
enough to build it. That's Connect Wednesdays.
That's a fact. Thank you so much, Steve, Champ, and the whole chat. Rick, everybody that's here tonight. Special moment. Appreciate you all.